Caves, a mysterious dark world, and home to an array of even more mysterious creatures. I've always been fascinated by caves and the critters that dwell within them, so today let's build a cave of our own, in this jar. This jar has no life in it and has potential to be way cooler than it is. Removing what little plants were still in there, I began dumping out the ugly soup. To my surprise, I saw a snail floating through all the chaos and scooped him out before he met his unfortunate fate. Okay, maybe I should look a little bit closer. What? No way! Oh my god, there's a shrimp in here. Where are you, Mr. Shrimp? I'm coming to save you. You see my little shrimpy at the bottom of this net? I feel like there's more shrimp in here now. Oh my god, there is! Snatched. Oh my gosh, this thing was apparently teeming with life. I just had no idea. They're all my babies. I can't let any of them go. Anyways, with a clean jar, we can focus on phase 2, the build. I want to make a cave with 2 different features, so I drew up this blueprint. One side will be a wide open cave entrance that has a tunnel passageway to the back side, which will be a maze-like collection of tinier tunnels. To bring this cave to life, I will use this spray foam for structure and some matte gray spray paint for a rocky finish. To size up different sections, I put this paper inside the jar and traced the perimeter with a pen, creating a template for the back tunnel end. To protect my tablecloth, I grabbed this plate that I don't mind sacrificing, gave the spray foam a healthy shake, and proceeded to tuck the plate in underneath a plush foamy blanket. For the front section, I laid the jar face down and sprayed in roughly where I envisioned an unlevel rocky ledge. For the side walls, I laid a piece of wax paper down in between the plate and the foam. I know I've now used 3 different methods for creating each section, but now we have 3 different experiments to see which technique works the best. With our foam now cured, I taped on the template and began carving it to shape with a kitchen knife. With the back end looking nice, I marked out where I wanted my passageway between the front and back to be. To make sure my mark was level on both sides, I used a chopstick as a pilot bit, pushing it through to help me map out the other side. I was excited to see it all coming together when I lined up the front and back ends. Feeling encouraged, I snatched up the marker and freeballed a labyrinthy tunnel system, including a mixture of twisting narrow passageways and some deeper pockets. Taking a razor blade, I began cutting out the tunnels, prying them up with the side of the blade. Or maybe not. I tried other tactics, but eventually found it easier to just pull it out with my fingers. Wow, is this actually working the way I hoped it would? Once our tunnels were carved, I colored them in with a marker so you guys can get a feel for what it's actually gonna look like once it's colored in. Next, I went after the front with my razor, carving down the platform to line up with the passageway in the back. Then I lined up what will become the side walls and sliced it down the middle. The outside of the side wall fits the concave edge of the jar really well, but the piece is too thick and takes away from the space inside, so I pulled it back out and cut out the meat. Obviously, our back piece isn't gonna fit in on its own, so I'll have to cut it into sections and reassemble it inside the jar. After all this work, I get a little dose of serotonin seeing it all fall into place. With the cave manifesting before my eyes, I used some scrap pieces of foam to fill in the remaining gaps. The next day I was surprised to see that all my foam had magically been thrown into the trash. But you know us tankscapers, we roll with the punches, so I grabbed this piece of foam pipe insulation to finish up the last few pieces. At this point you're probably thinking, Mr. Tankscaper, what is a cave without stalactites and stalagmites? Guys, relax. You're gonna get your stalags. In case it's been a while since you've brushed up on your cave vocabulary, stalactites are the ones that hang from the ceiling, while by contrast, stalagmites are the ones that rise up from the ground. Envisioning these mighty structures in our cave, I measured and cut out a few pieces, whittling them each down to a cone shape. Much like the other foam, I actually found it easier to shape the finer details with my fingers. With the cave structure completely finished, I'm not gonna let the rain stop my progress, although it might stop Doug. On my tiny balcony, I loaded the foam pieces into this plastic barrier and began spraying them down with our rocky-colored paint. Other than having to periodically chase off Doug, this process went by very smoothly, and before I knew it, the only pieces left to spray were these front pieces stuck to the glass. I struggled to get these pieces separated at first, but with the right tools in hand, they pried off with ease. Now I just have to deal with the ugly foam residue. I started off with a razor, but because the inside of the jar is concave, only the tips of the blade make contact with it. We'll have to resort to Plan B, chemical warfare. Adding in about an ounce of rubbing alcohol, I swished it around so it could begin breaking down the foam's bond to the glass. Wiping it down with a paper towel. It was a little stubborn, but I could tell the alcohol was working. I'd just have to be patient. Adding in more ISO, I let the swishing take over. I think the silly dance really did help because get a load of that squeaky clean jar. I did some final detail work with glass cleaner, and for the last time reassembled the cave. This top piece is where our stalactites are going to be mounted. To do this, I lined them up where I wanted them to hang, and skewered them together using toothpicks. Oh wow! The backside looks sweet! With the structure finally done, I added in a small layer of soil to provide a bedding, and covered up the rest of the cracks and gaps with moss. I then added in a cutting of periwinkle by wrapping the roots in substrate and sliding it down the side wall with a screwdriver. I guess caves don't really have much else in the way of decor, so with this build process behind us, it is my pleasure to invite you guys on a bug hunt. I flipped over a rock, and bingo! 3 bugs right off the bat. I found a ground beetle, a millipede, and a bristletail. Rock 2 had a little less action, but I did manage to get another bristletail. And lastly, I flipped over this log. There were no bugs, but hey, it's the middle of January, so I should be grateful for what I did manage to find. On my way home, I grabbed a branch and snapped off a straight twig. This will come in handy later to help complete the aesthetic. I want to make this twig look like a tree growing from the top of the cave. To do this, I determined where I wanted our tree to stand, selected a drill bit the same diameter as the trunk, and bored out a hole. Adding in the trunk, I brought the tree to life by adding these pothos cuttings. I know pothos is basic, but it's beautiful, fast-growing, and a very forgiving plant. Alright, my fellow tankscapers, this cave is ready for life. To get this party started, we'll add in our Jersey native bugs. I gently dumped the cup in, and quickly resealed the lid. Here's the ground beetle making himself at home in the soil. Other than that, I wouldn't get a whole bunch of great footage of our natives just yet, but hey, that's what a cave is, a good place for bugs to hide. But now let's add our next batch of bugs. I picked up some crickets and roaches from the local pet store. Adding in the crickets, I felt proud knowing that these bugs not only are no longer destined to be eaten by a lizard, but are about to be sent to bug paradise compared to the box full of egg cartons they grew up in. The crickets wasted no time scattering in every direction to seek the cover of the many cracks and crevices of our cavernous cave. Next up, I added in the roaches, who weren't so quick to rush off. They took their time to evaluate their new home and choose the route that best suited them. Soon after, the crickets must have warmed up to their more naturalistic habitat, as I saw this one scaling the moss wall right up front. And same goes for some of our Jersey natives, as this bristletail also emerged into daylight, checking out the opening of the cavern. Flipping to the backside, we can see a roach nestled into the narrow foot trails of our tunnels. How cool is that? To the human eye, this might not seem like much, but shrink down to bug size, and you've got cushy beds of moss, dark hidey holes, and a nutritious blend of food delivered to your front door by yours truly. Is it me, or is this roach walking weird? What the? Oh no! She's missing part of her head? The least I can do for the poor girl was give her a comfortable space to live out what little time is left. But rather than pity her, I think she would want us to rejoice in the knowledge that it is the circle of life that perpetuates progress and drives our world into the future. Thanks for watching, guys. Pretty please give this video a like, and comment below what environments and creatures you'd like to see next. Thanks again, and until next time, my friends, have a lovely day. Hey, I'm the tank guy. Subscribe.